So use this method anytime there is a coefficient in front of your x squared, which cannot be factored out. So coefficient, C-O-E-F-F-I-C-I-E-N-T. So do you see how this trinomial looks different than yesterday's? What's different? Yeah, the x squared has a number now in front of it, the coefficient. So this is why it's going to get harder, because you know how you were playing with the constant factors. Guess what you have to do now? Also with the factors of the x squared. So it steps it up a lot. So I cannot stress this enough. Some people get stuck trying to figure out how to factor this when they forgot the first step. And the first step is always factor the common factor out of there first. Okay? So what would be the common factor that we could take out of there? 2. Did everybody see it's a 2? Okay, and it should be the GCF, right? So if 4 went on all of them, then that would have made it really easy. But we're going to take out a 2. Okay. All right. Oh, I guess I need a blank there. Common factor. Okay, so now a common mistake would be is you factor the 2 out and then all of a sudden it disappears. Do not let it disappear. It has to hang out the whole way or I'll have to take marks off, okay? So sometimes you might say, oh, this 2 is, just remember, I got to keep this 2 in here so my final answer has the 2, okay? So you could kind of put this as a reminder. But in the end, now we're going to be factoring this trinomial, okay? This is the part that's going to have the 2 factors. So again, this is probably not the best way, but put a line so you know you're going to have to put the 2 back in. So what we're going to do here is, anyways, determine the coefficient of the first term. So in this case, it's 2. Does everybody see it's 2? Determine the constant. Actually, what I probably want the factors of the first 2 terms. Okay, I'm just going to do it this way. Determine the constant of the last term. So that is minus 5. So what we're doing is, this actually isn't too bad, but what we're doing is now we have to come up with factors of this now, right? So, and I wouldn't worry about the sign right now, but what are the only factors of 2? 1 and 2. And the only factors of 5 are 1 and 5. So here's the thing. You notice this is called guess and check method. So what we do is we basically say, okay, I'm going to guess that it's, well, for instance, the 1 and the 2, that's a 1 here and a 2 here. I don't usually write a 1, so I'll just put x and 2x. Does everybody see? X times 2x gives me 2x squared. Are we good with that? That's the 1 there. Okay, so now I'm going to put a 1 and a 5. Okay? I'm going to put a 1 and a 5. Or I'm going to put a 5 and a 1. Oh, I'm going to put a 1 and a 5. Okay. I'm just going to put it like this. Okay, this is why it's guessing. Okay, so this is wrong, by the way. I'm going to guess this, okay? And sometimes you don't even have to write it down. You can kind of just do it in your mind, like play around until you get it. So let's just see. So first off, 1 times 5, one of these has to be a negative to get a negative there. But what then I do is I do a FOIL, and I say, is there any way I can get negative 9 out of that? No. So then I guess wrong. Start from scratch. So then I wouldn't switch this around. I would just keep it there. Because if you change too many things at once, then there's too many things going on there. So now I'm going to flip the 1 and the 5 around. I'm going to put a 5 here and a 1 here. Does everybody see what I'm doing? Okay. So again, look at this. I have a 1x and a 10x. Is there any way to get minus 9x out of that? Yes. Woo, we're good. So what would I have to do? A minus 5 plus 1. So let's check now. So just to go back to number 4 here, we need to find the right product of these factors that will cause the binomials to multiply out to be your original trinomial. And of course, you can check this by applying FOIL. So we're going to do a quick FOIL here just to make sure I get 2x squared minus 9x minus 5. So first, x times 2x squared, right? Outer plus 1x minus 10x is the inner. I get minus 9x. And then last, I get minus 5 times 1 is minus 5. So does everybody see I did it right? So remember this little line I had here? Okay, if I just leave my answer like this, I would not get full marks, right? Because there's no way I'd get 4x squared out of this unless I had 2 times x minus 5, 2x plus 1. Okay? So again, if the product does not come out to the given trinomial, then you need to try again. So does everybody see what I'm doing? So how do I know where to put things? You just guess. You take a chance, FOIL it out. If it works, you're good. If you're not, then you got to try again. So you'll get really good at guessing. You will. The more you practice, the faster you'll get at this. And it's like, honestly, a lot of the times the numbers are prime, so you only have a few that you have to interchange. Okay. So we're going to try this again with guess and check. Okay? We're going to try this with guess and check. So is there a GCF that we can take out of 2x squared plus 5x minus 3? Is there a GCF I can take out of 2x squared plus 5x minus 3? No. So this is going to go directly into these forms right here, okay? So you got to, what are the factors of that coefficient there? Well, it's 1 and 2. And what are the factors of 3? 1 and 3. So you're like, yes, it's prime. So this is going to be easy, right? Because there's only so many different combinations you can move them around, right? So my advice to you is if, for instance, you get this 2x squared, maybe it was 4x squared, so then there's more than one set of factors, always try to place the prime. If you have 2 sets of prime, then it doesn't really matter, just place one of them. So you know how the last time I, over here, I kept, when I was doing the guessing and then checking, I kept the x in the first spot and the 2x, and I didn't move those. So what I'm suggesting to you is if you ever get prime ones, those should be the ones you place, and then you move around the other ones to figure it out. Okay? And we'll have some that come up. So I'm just going to place this one again. So I'm going to put an x here and a 2x here. Does everybody see how I'm getting that? Okay, good. So now I'm going to play around with the 1 and the 3. Okay, so does anybody think they could figure out which one I should put first, or you just want to go for it and just put whatever? Let's just go for it. Okay, so you want to put 1 and then 3 here? Oh, it's probably right now. We'll see. Well, in order to get a negative 3, one of these has to be a negative. Does everybody see that? In order to get negative 3, one of these has to be a negative. Now, how do I get positive 5? The bigger one would have to be positive. So this is the bigger one, so that means this would have to be positive. Does this work? No, it looked like it was going to, though, hey? There's some that are like that all the time. So then I go cross out. But you should be able to read it so then you don't try that one again. So I'm going to put x and 2x, but then this time I'm going to switch the 1 and the 3 around and I'll put a 3 there and a 1 there. Okay. Remember, one of these has to be a negative, and I need to get a positive 5x out of it. So which one would have to be that? Yeah, the 1. And the reason why it has to be a 1 is because I get 6x out of this, so that's positive 6x minus 1. So again, check and FOIL it out to make sure you get back to 2x squared plus 5x minus 3. So let's check. X times 2x. 2x squared, right? Outer gives me minus 1x. Inner gives me plus 6x, so that gives me the plus 5x. And then last gives me the minus 3. Okay? So the biggest mistake people make is they get the middle terms to work, but then they forget that the sign doesn't match for the constant at the end. They'll forget that. They'll get the middle term to work, but not the sign for the last. So you have to make sure you FOIL it completely. Okay. There is an option too, and honestly, you may want to practice it enough so that if you have then you have a backup plan. But honestly, in grade 11 pre-cal, you pretty much are forced to use guess and check. And the reason why is guess and check is quick. It's pretty fast. If you can guess it in the first one, then you're done, right? Versus this decomp, it almost takes like 2 minutes or 3 minutes a question. So it takes a long time, okay? The only reason I would use decomp or Psf method, which is product sum factor method, is because you're stuck and you keep on guessing and guessing and guessing and you can't get it. Then you have a backup plan. Or if the numbers are high, then this is a little bit easier to handle. But really in the end, guess and check, I would say, is the preferred method. You're not getting any marks for the work in between. You're just getting, is this right or wrong? Do you see what I'm saying? So like there's no benefit to doing this, except in my mind it's a method that works every time. It just takes a long time. Okay, so here's the method of decomp. We're going to do the same trinomial again, but this time we're going to use decomp. So we should get the same answer. Okay, so always begin factoring by checking for common factors. And that's what I'm saying the GCF is. And I would also say, in all, and I forgot to put this in the other one, is the leading coefficient should be positive. So you might want to factor it so that you take the negative out. It's just easier to factor, you know, x times x or 2x times x instead of this negative lying around. Okay, so from the remaining trinomial, calculate the product of the first and the last coefficients. So this is where Psf comes from, the first and the last. P is 2 times negative 3 gives me negative 6. Does everybody see how I got that? Maybe I shouldn't put an x in there, just so that we're not getting confused with the other x's. So 2 times negative 3 is negative 6. Okay? So now we're going to list all of the factors of this product. And we're going to list it as pairs. Okay? From these pairs of factors, we need to identify which pair, when added together, result in the middle term. That's where the S comes from in Psf. So this is the product. Now we're going to do the factors. So 1 and 6 doesn't make negative 6. So one of these has to be negative. So you can go negative 1 and positive 6, or you can go positive 1 and negative 6. Then I would go to the next one, negative 2 and positive 3, or positive 2 and negative 3. And those are all the factors, okay? So do you see I listed it in pairs? So what it's saying for here is which one, when you add it together, would you get this middle sum here, which is positive 5? Yeah, this one right here, hey? That's the only one that would get you that sum. Okay, so now, once you've figured that out, you rewrite the trinomial. Instead of the middle term being 5x, you split the 5x up to be a minus 1x and a positive 6x. That's what I'm getting right here. Okay, so it's going to become 2x squared minus 1x. I'm just going to write the minus 1x. Plus 6x minus 3. Okay. Does everybody agree that if I were to combine minus 1x and positive 6x right now, it would still be 5x and it's still the same question? Okay, all I'm doing is making it into 4 terms. So now what we do is we group the first 2 and the last 2 together. And what you're going to do is you're going to factor out a common factor from each of the groups. So what's common between 2x squared minus 1x? Well, 1, but what else? An x, right? An x is common to both? So we're going to factor out an x, and then we're going to go bracket. What am I left with in this first group? 2x minus 1. Does everybody agree? If I multiply this out, I would get that. Yes, okay. So, what's the common factor in 6x minus 3? A 3. And I'm going to factor out a positive 3, and you'll see why. So, what would I be left with when I take a 3 out of 6x minus 3? 2x minus 1. Does everybody see that? So this is where I said, notice how a common factor emerges. Do you see the common factor that emerges right here and right here? They're the same. So now we're going to do it again. We're going to pull out the common factor, which is the common to both terms. Do you see this is considered one term now, and this is considered another term. I shouldn't, you can't read it. I'll do it in red here. So this is considered one term by itself, and this is considered another term by itself. So now we're going to pull out the GCF again. The GCF again is 2x minus 1. And then what are we left with when we pull out a 2x minus 1 in the first term? We're left with a x. And if I pull out a 2x minus 1 out of the second term, what am I left with? A plus 3. And isn't that the same thing I got up there? X plus 3, 2x minus 1. 2x minus 1, x plus 3. So now, what did I want on this last blank here? I don't know what I want on that last blank. Oh, that was now factor again, which is the common. I took the 2x minus 1 out, right? So do you see, this is my final answer. So the guess and check is much easier, but we're going to practice both methods just to get good at both. But for the test, for the quiz, if you just like guess and check, you have my full support doing guess and check, because like I said, in grade 11 pre-cal, you pretty much are forced to do guess and check because that's the only thing that goes fast, right? Like in grade 11 pre-cal, you're not getting any marks for factoring. It's given that you know how to do it. The grade 11 stuff is the next step after that, right? So, okay. Okay, so we're going to do number 1. We're going to try Psf method again. Do you remember the Psf method? We're going to do that method. So that's product is the first times the last. By the way, this one is easier to do with guess and check. You know why? Yeah. You know what? Let's just do guess and check on this one, because honestly, like if you can, my goal is that you can see it and get the guess and check right away, right? So, factors of the first is 1 and 2, right? And products of that is 1 and 1. So that's why I said guess and check is really easy, because it doesn't matter where you put it, it's going to work, right? Like it's 1, 2, 1, 1. So, a 1 and 1, sorry. So this is a 1y and a 2y and a 1 and a 1. Do you see there's, if I move the 1 and the 1, I'll have the same thing. So now all we have to do is play with the signs here. So the sum is positive y. So what would I have to make negative here? Yeah, the second one would have to be negative for this to work. Does that make sense to you? So let's check. First, we get 2y squared. Outer, we get minus y. Inner, we get plus 2y. And last, we get minus 1. This combines to be plus y. We're good to go. You see how fast this can go? Okay. At some point, I do want to practice Psf, but maybe this is another one. 3 and 2, they're both prime. So it's easy to do guess and check. I'm hoping there's going to be a harder one coming up. Let's see. Yeah, that one might be harder. Okay, so is there a GCF I can take out of 3a squared plus 5a plus 2? No. So now I go directly to guessing and checking. Again, you don't have to show this step, but the factors of 3 are 1 and 3, and the factors of 2 are 1 and 2, right? So we may guess wrong on the first one, you know, but anyways, so we're going to place A and 3A. Remember, place one of them if they're prime. If this is prime and this isn't prime, place the prime one, right? Okay. So, anyone want to take a guess? Yes. Yeah. A plus 1. Hey, by the way, if they're both positive, that means automatically I can place pluses in there. Does that make sense to you? Okay. So, yeah, I would agree this would be a +1 and a 2. So let's check. A times 3A is 3A squared. Outer gives me 2A. Inner gives me 3A. 2A and 3A make 5A. And 1 times 2 is 2. What do you think? Not too bad? Not too bad? Okay. Not too bad? Okay, how about this one? Is there a common factor I can pull out? At 3. So first step is to do that. What am I left with? X squared plus 3x plus 2. So remember that 3 has to go around, but mind you, the 3, we could just, I guess we can just pull it down. Okay, so now we're going to factor this trinomial here, right? Okay, easy, right? Because this is 1, 1 and 1, 2. And they're both positive, so does everybody see? If they're both positive, I can place plus and know it's for sure going to be right. Because there's no other way it's going to happen. So this is an x, right? And then it doesn't matter where I put the 2 and the 1, it's just going to work. Do you see that? I get a 1x and a 2x make a 3x. Now, I just got a final answer. Stick the 3 back in and bada bing, bada boom, there you go. Okay. Ooh. What's different about this one here? Huh? Yeah, the exponents are different. But do you understand if you go an x squared times an x squared, we'll get an x to the power 4. And then our middle term will be x squared. Okay, so is there a GCF I can take out of this? Yeah, a 2. So if I do a 2, I'm left with 5 x to the power 4 plus 4x squared minus 1. Everybody agree? Okay, so over here I'm just going to say, remember, recall x squared times x squared gives me x to the power 4, right? So that's how I'm going to get the first factors there. So the 2 hangs around, so you might want to put that and then erase it later. It's up to you. Factors of 5 are 1 and 5, and factors of 1 are 1 and 1. So this is actually a pretty easy one because they're all prime. I'm hoping we're going to get some hard ones coming up here. Looks like we will. Okay, so we're going to factor this. Remember, 1 and 5, but it's going to not be x and 5x. It's going to be x squared and 5x squared. Does that make sense to you? So this is x squared and 5x squared. That's the only way that these two would multiply to get 5x to the power 4. Okay, everybody good with that? Yeah? Okay, so now we're going to put a 1 and a 1. Which one now this is negative and this is positive. So which one would have to be negative then? We got to get positive 4x here. So if we put negative in the first one, do you see my middle term will be minus 5x squared? So it's actually the second one. So let's just check, and we'll do this slowly this time because it's a little different one. So x squared times 5x squared gives me 5x to the power 4. Yes? Outer gives me minus 1x squared. Inner gives me plus 5x squared. And last gives me minus 1. And then those would combine to be the 4x squared. So what's my final answer? 2 bracket x squared plus 1, 5x squared minus 1. Yes? Okay. How are you feeling about this? I'm sorry? Honestly, that's what I prefer is guess and check. The PSF I just throw in for anybody that's struggling with factoring. But in the end, if you end up taking pre-calc, like guess and check is what you're going to use. So I kind of hesitate. On the test, I would never ask you, you need to show the Psf method or decomp method to factor. I would never ask that. I just say factor. So whatever method you choose, just know that the decomp method takes a long time. Okay? So it does seem more complicated, and I bet if I would have showed you the decomp method first, then guess and check, a lot of people like the decomp method first. You know what I mean? Some teachers will teach decomp one day and then guess and check the second day, and the kids are hooked on decomp. I show it right away because I want you to actually do guess and check. Okay? So, is there a GCF we can take out of number 5? No, there isn't anything. This is another one where we have b to the power 4. So now it's not going to be b times b. It's going to be b squared times b squared. So again, this is nice because they're both prime. So far you're thinking, oh, this method is not too bad. That's because we've had prime all the way. Kind of getting you a little hooked here. And then I'm going to throw you into some not prime ones. Okay? So let's try the guess. Remember, it's okay if we get this wrong. We just cross it off and keep going. So I'm going to place b squared and 3b in there, b squared in there. Is everybody good with that? So what would we have to do now? Who has a guess here on where to place the 1 and the 2? Okay, let's try that. -2 and +1. Let's see if he's right. So b times 3b is the 3b to the power 4. Yes? Outer gives me +1b squared. Inner gives me -6b squared. Does that give me the middle term I want? Yes. And then last gives me -2, so this is absolutely correct. Okay, so do you guys want to try the next examples on your own, and then we'll go through it? All right. That's one I let you go on. Yeah, I know. I'm sorry. 1 and 2 and 1 and 3. So the only way you could do this is C and 2C, and then play around with the 3 and the 1. So if I put 1 and 3, and so okay. So anyways, if this is in order to get a plus, this would have to be the bigger one. So if you put a plus and a minus, what do you get there? You get 3C minus 2C. That's not the 2C in the middle there, right? No, I got it. Okay, well let's see what you got. +1 and then 2C minus 3. Okay, watch. C times 2C is 2C squared, so that's good. Outer gives me -3C. Inner gives me +2C. Does that give you the +2C you need? No. What does it give you? It gives you -C.
Yeah, it's C plus 3, then C or 2C minus 1. Like, you got to flip it the other way.
Okay.
C plus 3.
Okay, C plus 3.
And then 2C minus 1.
Okay, let's try that again. Okay, C times 2C is 2C squared, so we're good. Okay, outer gives us -1C. I'm going to write that down. Inner gives me +6C. So that's even, that gives me +5C. So you see, it's not going to work. That's why you kept on going and going and going, and you couldn't get it. So we write not factorable.
So that's the answer.
Yeah. Sometimes you'll see them write prime. I've seen that before, prime. I don't know what your textbook does. I think they say not factorable. By the way, if you end up factoring a GCF out, that's factorable. Like doing that first step, factoring out a GCF, but then not being able to factor the trinomial inside, then that would just be your final answer. You'd stop there, right? You need to factor out the GCF. That is, I can't stress it enough. The first thing you should always be looking for is a GCF. So D comes out 3D squared plus 10D plus 8. Now you're going to factor this. This kind of gets hanging around, right? And factor that trinomial. Now the problem with this trinomial is this is prime, 1 and 3, but this is not prime. You have a 1 and an 8 and a 2 and a 4. So this is the first time this came into play where you had not both prime. So this is where I said you have a little bit of strategy. It's almost like playing chess. If you can place things that you know that have to be there, like signs or like the prime ones, then it makes it a lot easier. So if I were to do this, I would place the D and the 3D. Does everybody see? I know it has to be there because they're prime, right? The next thing I know that has to be the case is they have to be pluses. Do you see? It has to be the case. Now, I'm going to play around. Would a 1 and an 8 work? So let's just place it, 1 and 8. Does that make? That would make 8D and a 3D makes 11D, so it doesn't work. So then what I would do is I'd erase and start again, or cross it off, right? I don't have enough room to cross off, so that's what I'm doing. So now I'm going to put 8. I don't even think I want to write 8 and 1. If I put 8 here and 1 here, I'm going to get 24 and 1. That's way too high, right? So now I'm going to do the 2 and the 4. Because the 1 and the 8, I tried both spots and it didn't work. So now I'm going to do 2 and 4. So I'm going to put, again, the plus can go there. So I'm going to put a 2 and a 4. Let's see if that works. I get a 6D and a 4D. Oh, that makes a 10D. So let's put the D back in and see if this works here. So first, I get 3D squared. Good. Outer, I get 4D. Inner, I get 6D. Makes the 10D. And last, I get 8. My final answer is that. So do you see how it took a little bit longer to guess and check? But again, use a strategy. If there's one that is prime, place them. And don't move them. Only move the ones that are composite. Okay? So try the next one. You notice in the next one, okay, first off, for number 8, is there any GCF I can take out of it? That should always be your number 1. So no. So this is factors of 2, 1 and 2, and this is factors of 15. 15 is not prime, so it's going to be the same thing again. 1 and 15 and 3 and 5. So you're going to have to play around with this, right? Now the signs, how do I get a positive constant and a negative sum? How do I get that? Does everybody say they both have to be negative, right? Yeah. So when you place this, you put your G and your 2G. They both have to be negative. Now start playing around with 1 and 15 and 3 and 5 and see what works. Okay, so I placed the G and the 2G and the minuses. Everybody understand how I got that? So now, honestly, you don't have to write it down. You can pretty much do this in your head until it actually works, and then place it and check it, right? So in order to get 13G, it looks like I need to get the 15 out here and the 1 out here. Does everybody see that? So, no, that doesn't work, does it? Okay, see? That's why we guess and check, right? Okay, we'll try this again. Well, if I do the 15 there and the 1 there, I get way too big. So now if I do a 3 and a 5, let's see, does that work? No, because then I get a 5G and a 6G make 11. So then let's do 5 and 3. Finally, hey? Do you see I get a negative 10 and a negative 3G? That makes the negative 13G, and then if I continue my FOIL, it works. So do you see? You have to just keep on guessing. Now this one I want to show you a shortcut, okay? Because I saw a couple people do this. So this is 1 and 6 and 2 and 3. And this is 1 and 6 and 2 and 3. I want to show you something. Okay? So first off, is there a GCF I can take out of this? No. Okay. So I'm going to go directly to factoring. So if you want to try the 1 and the 6, go for it. Okay? I'm not saying this is right. I'm just saying watch this. So this is what I want to show you. if you've actually checked for factoring out the GCF, there is no point putting the 6 in here. Do you see why? Why? Why is there no point putting a 6 there? No, because then there's a GCF I could pull out. Do you see? There's a 6 that would be common to both. Likewise, there is no point putting a 3 here. Why? Because there's a GCF I can pull out. Likewise, there's no point putting a 2 here because there's a GCF that I can take out. So do you understand why it's key to make sure you take the GCF out on the first spot? Because then it actually makes factoring way easier. So now I can conclude that really there is no point to do x and 6x, right? Because none of them actually work correctly. So I'm going to put a 2x and a 3x now. Likewise, there is no point putting a 3 here and a 2 here. Do you see that? Because then you'd have a common 2. So the only thing I could try is say this and this. Do you see what I'm saying? So how do I get a middle term of 5? This would have to be a plus, this would have to be a minus. So do you see there's a lot of strategy involved for this to work, right? And so the whole GCF and knowing there's no point to put a 3 there because then you'd have a common 3 you could take out. You know what I'm saying? So let's just check to make sure I did this right. 2x times 3x is 6x squared. Outer is minus 4x, inner is plus 9x, and then last is minus 6. So that did work. Okay, we're running a little bit short of time. So is there a GCF I can take out in number 10? No. So I'm going to go directly to factoring. This is nice. You might say, no, it's not. 6 has too many factors. Watch this. So you know how I've been placing the first ones all the time? In this case, I'm gonna place this because I know it has to be 1 and 5. Okay, so do you see how the strategy is developing here? So 1 and 5. It has to be 1 and 5 here. Now I'm going to play around with the x's. Is it x and 6x? Is it x and 6x? Would that work? Is it 6x and x? You can picture what the middle term is going to be. Is it going to be a 2x and a 3x? Ooh, that might work, hey? 2x and a 3x. Why did I say, ooh, that might work? Because, yeah, I get a 10 and a 7. Now let's play around the signs and see if this works. I need to have a minus 7, so which one would have to be minus? That one, right? And that. So let's see, does it work? 6x squared, right? 6x squared. Outer gives me minus 10x. Inner gives me plus 3x. So that makes the minus 7x, and then last gives me minus 5. So